Yes, what's happening, people? And welcome back to Gav Goes In. Listen, it's very ironic, man, that we're actually doing this player. You know, obviously, this was a player for me that, I have to hold my hands up and be honest and say that when my team played against this certain player, I genuinely was scared because I've probably given it away, man, to who I'm talking about because obviously we are rivals. We did play yesterday and we did win the game, you know. But I was genuinely, scared of this player because at any moment of the game, he could turn the game on its head because he was just ridiculous, you know. And as I said, for me, he's the best ever player to play in the Premier League, and I have no problem saying that as a Man United fan. As much as I dislike the other team, you know, and for me, yeah, he was an absolute demon. Pace to burn, physical, I wouldn't say he had skills like that, but he still had, a close control, good touch, dribbling. They're all part of the skill factor, really. Technical, his pace really was his bonus. He didn't really need the pace because he had everything else, but his pace was his X factor, and I genuinely was scared, at what this guy could do to my team because he was that good, And again, you guys have probably worked it out anyway, and that's Arsenal's Thierry Henry. And for me, as I said, I have no problem saying that this guy was the best player for me to ever play in the Premier League. Single-handedly at times winning games for Arsenal. His partnership with Dennis Bergkamp as well, that was the best partnership you would say in the league. One of the best partnerships you would say that has been in the Premier League as a two. You had Dennis Bergkamp, who was a supreme footballer, and he had Henry, man. And Henry was an absolute demon as well. And again, Thierry Henry started his career as a left winger, just like quite a lot of players like that, and then transitioned to a striker, obviously under Wenger's guidance, And to be honest with you, what a masterstroke it was, because this guy could just pick up the ball from anywhere and just dribble and just use his pace past anyone. Like, there was nothing you could do. If Thierry Henry turned up on the day and said, look, I'm just going to win this game, like, there's nothing you could do because he was that devastating, And as I mentioned earlier, he should have won the Ballon d'Or or the World Player of the Year. Obviously, he was pipped to it by Pavel Nedved. But that season where I think it was one of the games where he destroyed Real Madrid away from home. Even I said he has to win the World Player of the Year, and he obviously finished second. But he was devastating in that season. Obviously part of the Invincibles team as well that Arsenal went through. But again, let's not forget, there's quite a few draws in it. So let's just remember that, yeah. But again, man, Thierry Henry was an absolute problem, man. Absolute problem. The amount of defenses that he's just, made look silly over the years, was just criminal. What I would say is, for me, in terms of the very greats, for me, he's not in my top 10. But I would say, because it's a hard list, but I would say he has to be somewhere in between 10 and 30, I think. And it's against a hard list, but he was devastating, Henry, man. He was absolutely devastating as a player. He was an absolute problem, and yeah, man, it was a joy to watch, man, really, even as a rival fan, because he's the kind of player that you like to watch because, on any given day, he's just going to make someone look stupid, and he's done it time and time again. And what I would say, man, is, and I'll be happy to say this, he should have at least won a Ballon d'Or in his career, World Player of the Year, at how devastating he was in this league. You know what I mean? But again, never happened, But yeah, he was a problem, man. Absolute problem, Thierry Henry. I genuinely used to fear when Man United played them, because it used to be Henry versus Van Nistelrooy, And again, as a Man United fan, I was always backing Van Nistelrooy, but deep down, I knew Van Nistelrooy was nowhere near Henry, nowhere near him. Van Nistelrooy was a great goal scorer, but Henry scored goals but was everything else as well. And as I said, his pace in that era of football, that was like his kryptonite in a sense. You know, it was like he didn't have to use it, but if he needed to use it, it was there. But we need to remember how good technically he was. You know, he had everything to his game, Henry, man. And as I said, Arsenal versus Manchester United back in the day, you know, he was the one player along with like Bergkamp, but mainly Henry because he could turn the game on its head that you had to watch out for, man. And as I said, should have won the Ballon d'Or that season with Nedved, but didn't get it, and unlucky not to get anything else. But yeah, man, what a player. Let's go on to the numbers anyway. So obviously he started his career at Monaco as a youngster, obviously playing as a left winger before moving on to Juventus. So 105 appearances for Monaco, 20 goals, 1 assist. And again, Monaco, man, the amount of players they produce, man, players like that, the likes of Henry, the likes of Martial, the likes of Mbappe. Like there's no surprise or secret as to why Monaco produced players like that. You know, Juventus 16 appearances, 3 goals, 2 assists, and then obviously Arsenal is where he come alive really. 258 appearances, obviously record goal scorer, 175 goals, 76 assists. Barcelona, again, when he went to Barcelona, I think for me, obviously he went to Barcelona as he was getting older. But what I would say, and again, I think people might take this the wrong way, yeah? But when he went to Barcelona, again, he didn't play through the middle. He played out on the left because the system that Pep played, the 4-3-3, you know, he had Messi, Henry and Eto'o. And that was a devastating front three. And Henry obviously played from the left. Eto'o went in the middle. Messi was on the right. But then as Messi got more experience, more exposure, Pep utilised Messi as a false 9, you know. But what I would say, and again, Arsenal fans might take this the wrong way, Henry kind of, like, there's levels in football. And I think at Arsenal, he was number one. When he come to Barcelona, he was just a top player amongst a lot of other top players. And again, that's not taking anything away from Henry, but his X factor wasn't really that in La Liga. He was just seen as a top player, but there was probably bigger names or better players there, which again ain't taking nothing away from Henry because the level was a lot higher there, you know. And obviously at Barca, 80 appearances, 35 goals, 20 assists. New York Red Bulls, obviously when he finished at Barca, 122 appearances, 51 goals, 33 assists. And obviously for France, 123 appearances, 51 goals, 27 assists. And I believe Mbappe has just surpassed his record. No, sorry, what am I talking about? I think Olivier Giroud surpassed Henry's record. And then I think Mbappe's just surpassed that. So, yeah, but he was the record goal scorer at that time for France. And his team honours, again, the one World Cup. And that World Cup will I'll never forget that World Cup. You know, that's when they beat Brazil in the final. And this was a Brazil with R9. Rivaldo, I think, was in there. What else was there? Cafu, Roberto Carlos. Who else was there? They had Lucio. I think they had a serious team. And that final is when Zidane scored the two headers. You know, and that's when they won the World Cup. And that was a great World Cup, to be fair. 1 Euros, 1 Confederations Cup, 1 Champions League, not with Arsenal, with Barcelona. Wait, was that the final they beat? No, that's when Henry played for Arsenal. One. 2 Premier Leagues with Arsenal. And again, that's a shock. You know, that shocked me. To think that Henry was the best player in the league at that time, he's only got 2 Premier League titles to show for it, which is mad, you know. 2 La Ligas with Barca, and then 3 FA Cups with Arsenal. Individual, 4 Golden Boots in the Premier League, 3 Footballer of the Years, 2 PFA Player of the Years, and then 2 Golden Shoes for Thierry Henry. So, again, great career, you know. Probably would have liked to have won more, whether it's individual or maybe a few more league titles or Champions League with Barcelona. But I think there's no denying, man, what a player he was. And as I said, there is levels in football because when he was at Arsenal, he was the #1 player in the league by far. And then going to Barca, you know, I think order kind of restored in a sense. And again, that's nothing on Henry, but the level was just high. And as I said, man, it was crazy to see just how good he was, man. You know, as I said, every game Arsenal played, you know, I used to watch Arsenal for Bergkamp and Henry mainly because I knew something was going to happen, you know. And again, when they played against United, yeah, it was a massive problem, man, because as I said, Henry could just pick up the ball from anywhere and do something with it. And if anyone remembers Henry's goal against Fabian Barthez, where he scooped it up and then put it in the top corner, like outrageous goal, man. But a lot of the things he done was outrageous. You know, he was ridiculous, Henry. But as I said, man, as a Man United fan, you have to be honest and just hold your hands up and say, yeah, this is a player there, man. That there's not much you can do when he's on his game, you know. And I'll be honest and say that because he was that good. So yeah, big up Thierry Henry, man. Only if your team right now had that kind of quality of player, man, it could be different, you know. But guys, make sure you smash the like button. Make sure you share the channel. Make sure you sub to the channel. And let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think Thierry Henry should have won more Ballon d'Ors or World Player of the Years? Do you think that when he went to Barcelona, you know, the level was higher, which meant that he wasn't the superstar that he was at Arsenal? Let me know in the comments. And as I said, make sure you view all the other content as well. And again, great to the game, man. It's all the greats that have played the game that people might have slept on or forgotten about. And we go through their stats, their numbers, and how good they are. So there's quite a few up for you guys. So as I said, let me know in the comments what you guys think. And yeah, I'll catch you on another one. Take it easy.